Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Fellas, we're back on the 460 teardown here. And as you can see, fellas, I wanted to show for real what you got going on here. This is not pretty. It's a lot of work. I'm taking the timing cover off where it broke right here, where I broke it. I want to save you guys the grief of me pulling all the bolts out. But I pre-treated this damper, and you'll never believe what I used for that. My mystery oil. But anyway, guys, what I did want to tell anybody working on these 460s is Ford did a really good job of mixing your bolts up. So what you have going on here, fellas, if you ever have to take the timing chain cover off, you have a bolt under here, up under the pan. See if I can get it where you can tell where I'm holding this camera. Let me step back a little bit, guys. It's back underneath. And one's 7/16, and the other ones are 3/8. They did a really good job of mixing your bolts up like that. They make it really easy for you. And of course, I'm being sarcastic. I hate that because you can't see what they are. But anyway, fellas, I'm going to attempt to pull this bouncer off. I did pre-treat this already, like I said, with my mystery oil. And hoping that this comes off pretty easy, which they usually don't. Also, what I did, I pre-treated the pulley with mystery oil up in here, and the puller itself. So that's what I do, fellas. And also where I put the bolts in for the puller. That's always good to lube all this stuff up, fellas. So I'm trying to hold this camera, and this thing's kind of probably flop on me. Oh, there she goes, guys. And there she is. She isn't very pretty. And this is definitely getting changed, guys. I'm not going to run a bouncer from back in the 80s. And see what we got going on here. I already did take the bolts out of here. So that'll be the next step, to pull this timing chain cover off. So we're getting there, guys. So one step at a time. I'm doing this after work here. I had to really motivate myself to come out here and do this. But fellas, one thing I had a request. The guy actually asked me about trying to explain advancing the cam timing up on an engine. And I'm going to see if I can do this on a basic, just the basics here. Instead of talking about the green of cam and all that stuff, I don't want to throw people way off on that stuff because it's too technical. But what you have on a stock timing chain is, on the older engines, your keyway wouldn't be lined up like this. It would be off about over to here, and that's when they offset the crank. So that retards the cam timing. And depending on what your engine you have, some of them retarded 4 degrees, some may be even up to 6, and most of the time it's 4. But and then of course on your older chains, it's not just when they're retarded like that. This is a new chain here, but you'll have a lot of slack in your older engines, and especially the old mid-80s and 70s engines, you'll have a nylon timing chain, so you can only imagine the wear on these. At least the 302s have a double roller chain, and they're usually pretty good even when they have 300,000 miles on them. I've seen them where they're still okay as far as being where you could run them. Not that I want to run an old chain like that, but they just really hang in there. But what I wanted to say about this here is, if you try to advance the cam up, what you're going to do you'll buy a aftermarket chain like this here. It has degree marks on it. And for each degree, like this one has multiple grooves in it where you can advance it so many degrees at a time. A lot of them just have like 3. And fellas, to be honest with you, all but the last couple engines we've done, this is what I've always done. I've never even degreed the cam. I've just known what the cam was, basically mostly factory stuff. So I used to just do it this way. Just advancing it with the timing chain. And sometimes, believe it or not, fellas, that can be worth, well, I've had cars go a second faster by doing that, and even more, depending on the engine. I mean, you have them where they're retarded 4 or 5 degrees from the factory. That makes a big difference when you bump them up. I used to get in arguments with my friend because he would say that if you advance it up 4 degrees to top dead center, you're not advancing it. You're not advancing it according to his standards because he's talking about advancing it from top dead center. But if you're advancing it 4 degrees where it's retarded 4 degrees, then you're still advancing the cam. That's my rule of thumb. Maybe 99% of people would say that he's right how he looks at it from top dead center. But if you have something that's retarded 4 degrees and you bump it up 4 degrees, then you're advancing it 4 degrees, even though it's retarded. That's how I look at it. But anyway, guys, I had a request for this to do this segment here about the timing chain. And what happens, fellas, if you, on a rule of thumb basis, is that for every 2 degrees you bump that up, you're going to lose about 200 RPM. So if you have a camshaft that's good to 5,000 and you bump it to timing chain 2 degrees, you're going to probably have a camshaft with the RPM that will run about 4,800. Just on a rule of thumb, fellas. It's never exact like that. But you got to take in consideration, if you have gear in the car, and the more you bump that up, the less RPM band you're going to have. And if you have gear in the car, it becomes less crucial to even do that. The reason I did this most of the time because I had no gear in the car. They were usually stock engines. They were mostly low compression. I had a Fairmont wagon. I did it too. The thing had no power. It wouldn't even turn a tire. I advanced the cam up. Actually, what I did, I bought a 289 timing chain for a 67 engine, and I put that in. Excuse me, fellas. And the thing went to ripping the tires right off. If I remember right, that car ran like 18 something. And when I did that timing chain, it was just a 2-barrel low compression engine. I think it went like 16, 12 just by doing that. Single exhaust, it wasn't a race car, fellas, just a wagon. Excuse me, guys, I'm breathing some dust in here. But it's like I said, you can get really technical with this as far as degreeing it in with the cam and all that stuff. But what I will talk about while we're talking about degreeing the cam, a lot of times you want to be careful, guys, because if you just try sticking a camshaft in, you always have to find out where that cam's ground on. Like comp cams, they're mostly 4 degrees advanced. So if you put it in advanced even more, so you're going to lose that power band a little bit. That's why it's good to check your specs, your camshafts, and really be sure what you're doing, and your push rod length, all that stuff. Make sure you have all that correct, fellas. You just don't buy a cam and throw it in. Make sure you have the correct springs. Make sure you have the correct rod, push rod length. And that stuff's all real crucial because you don't want to be biting the bullet and doing all that, thinking you're going to advance yourself and then be sorry you did it. So I always try to protect you guys like that because they're easy mistakes to make, especially when you're learning and you don't really know. And I just hope I'm doing a good enough job explaining this stuff. But on a rule of thumb, if you have an older engine and it is retarded like that. I believe this 460 is probably going to be 4 degrees retarded when I take that cover off. And I'll do a segment on it if it is. But like I said, I had a request for this, and I just hope I explained enough, went into enough detail about it, because I had a guy ask me about it. And it's just nice to know certain things like that. But the information is out there for this kind of stuff, guys. If you really need to know that kind of stuff, there's internets you can go to that actually do a whole segment on that and explain it in the real detail. Like I said, I'm doing things for the basic guys that are learning, and that guys can get in there and do it themselves, hopefully without hurting their engine or doing anything to mess anything up. So that's what I'm trying to do, guys. I'm trying to keep it on a low-key basis here with people. And like I said, there's other information out there if you need to know more about that. And that's the only reason I'm doing these little segments like this here is for the average kid that's learning and stuff. So, but if there's any questions, you guys could always, like I always tell you, leave a comment. And I could go into more detail about it. But anyway, fellas, back on this dirty 460 over here. We're getting there. And I wanted to show you all the gunk that's just off of it from getting the 1 or 2 bolts, fellas. This is all what you're in for, guys. That's how oil used to be, guys. This is why I try to tell people. This is what used to be into your valve covers. And I had guys back in the day, they say, oh, I run Quaker State. Back in the day, Quaker State was terrible. And this is what you had in your valve, on your valve cover and your valve tray, and everywhere you look, that's what you had. I had a farmer tell me, he goes, my motor doesn't make a noise. I said, I guess it wouldn't because it can't, because there's nothing in there to move. It had all that stuff solid around the push rods. It was actually wearing the push rods. I see one so bad, wearing the marks in the push rods. I was like, that's insane. You wouldn't think an engine would even hold up bearing-wise like that. But anyway, fellas, I just wanted to do this quick segment about trying to explain the timing, advancing it and retarding the cam timing a little bit. And like I said, gear in the car, the more gear you have, the less you want to advance it. And that also depends on the camshaft. If you have a bigger power band in the cam, if it's up to like 6,000, 65, then it's not as crucial. When you have a little bit more to play with. When you have a short factory cam RPM band, that makes it a little bit crucial. So that's why I wanted to explain it that way. I hope that makes sense to you guys. All right, fellas, well, listen, have a good night. And I am getting excited about this 460 here. I'm trying to weigh things out. I'm trying to keep it on the budget side, but there's a few things I might have to do to spend some money to make it how I want, and I'm trying to weigh that all out now to see if I want to go that route or if I just want to keep it on the simple side. All right, fellas, have a good night. I'll talk to you later, and thanks for stopping in. Take care.